right, it's in between. I'm going to kick it off with something Richard said to me about where we are in life. We were talking about this, and Sean, I don't even know if you were in here when we began this, but Richard and I both being in our 50s, he brought up something that's pretty truthful, and that being that you have things that I think sometimes people call midlife crises or crises. Because you come to a point where it's like, what am I doing? So tell everybody kind of what you set it up for us. What were you saying to me?
So, I feel like through my 20s and 30s and 40s, I always had something that I was working towards or evolving towards doing something, whether it was the store or free comic book day or the variants or CrossFit or becoming a CrossFit coach or training for competitions, things like that. And, I turned 50 last year. I just turned 51, and I don't want to depress my audience, but I see my parents, and they're 20 years older than me, and I see the direction that my body and my mind is going to kind of move towards. And I'm not depressed about it, but I feel like I'm at the point where I'm trying to find something to do to push that further away. I'm looking for...
yeah, but you don't have... Your parents did not have the physical strength that you have. I don't, unless you just stop working out and stuff, I don't see you becoming your parents in 20 years, at least physically.
Well,
now, mentally, there are things, that you can and can't control.
Well, so I don't look at them as I look at that as a warning. I look at that as a warning. I guess what I'm trying to say is I spent 8 months trying to get my body in shape to do kind of this nice, hey, I have a photo shoot of myself at what it means to be 51. And I just finished a CrossFit competition last week, and I'm in this weird holding pattern of trying to figure out what is the next thing that I want to do. And I see the inevitability of being older, and I worry about becoming complacent and not pushing myself to something else, and it feels like a little bit of a crisis. I don't want to say that I'm holding on to youth, but sometimes, when I was talking to Todd, I was talking about, trying to relate to him as the fact that he has he performs and has a big gig, and once the gig is done, there's always that kind of depressing moment right afterwards where I've got nothing lined up for a week or 2 weeks or whatever else, and I just don't know what I'm doing right now, and I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Are you still considering buying into / opening your own gym?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't.
Well, I think this goes beyond just the immediate. When I replied to Richard, yes, I actually I'm in the moment of that with music where we played a very big gig. Troy Aikman, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, has a big restaurant in Arlington. We played there on center stage. It was a big night. We actually played a gig during that day too. So we had 2 gigs, and people are all over us. And because of the pandemic, it's literally stop and go with gigs.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a ton. Oh, no, nobody wants you. And so it's a very weird feeling. But what I'll say to it, because I have the seniority over you by 3 years, yay, so we're the same age. I feel that oftentimes, and for me, it's not so much of a crisis of where I'm going, it's more of a crisis of I suffer from the thing of, do people look at me? I told you guys, and I don't think either of you were surprised when I said a friend of mine have been working on a screenplay. Were you surprised that I said that?
No.
But I think of my friends who don't talk to me like this. I think they think, you're in your 50s. Why are you doing that kind of thing? And I hear those conversations, and I know that's my own self-doubt. I know that I am putting that upon it. But I think at 50 years old, you begin to hear more of those voices, those kind of things like what you're doing right now. Of where am I going next? What's this next thing? Whatever the questioning is you do. And I think we look so often at that as it's unhealthy. I think maybe it's healthy. Maybe it's helping you pinpoint where you want to be.
And that's what is the next project. The thing that I don't want to be is I don't want to, and this is something that I've always kind of struggled with. I don't want to be somebody who consumes. I want to be somebody who continues to create something.
I totally agree.
and doing this podcast is creating something, right? And so I'm in this holding pattern of what is this next thing that I want to create, and what is the next thing that I want to do. My husband just finished writing a book. He's getting a lot of good responses from his test readers about the book. He's waiting for the jacket to cover it. I'm very, very happy for him. And he's trying to get me to start writing again, like I did with the variants. And it just doesn't speak to me at this moment to write. I don't want to. He can get to me on ideas. I can pitch ideas to him. Great, but I just don't have the motivation to sit down and actually bang something out. Right. But I just don't know what I'm doing next. And having just turned 51 and being 50, it feels like a crisis of, what's the next thing that I'm going to create? I don't want to consume. I see my parents and I see this destiny that will happen at some point. I don't know. I'm just kind of in a weird place.
I get that because Shelly was just, Shelly being my wife, my wife taught something to me the other day that, narcissistically, all of us love when someone talks about us. The doctor she works for has been trying to write a novel for years. And, hey, I wrote a book with somebody. It's not an easy process, because Chris is obvious. It is not something you just do. It's a long process of write, rewrite, all these kind of things. And he recently came to the doctor she works for, came to Shelly and said, "Is your husband writing another book?" And she said, "You know what? That was more of a, could I do it?" But she said, "My husband never stops creating. Is he writing a song? Is he playing a gig? Is he doing a podcast? Is he writing a screenplay?" To that point, I think the creative soul needs to always have that process. And I can't stop it. It just doesn't stop for me. But I've been lucky so far where, I guess because I do so many of these things, where sometimes I feel like I'm giving too much of myself out there. And sometimes it's that pull back. I wouldn't have done this screenplay with this friend. Funny thing is his ex-girlfriend told us, the guy I'm writing with, Sean, worked at Yahoo with us. I don't know if did you ever know Jeff LeGrone?
Yeah.
Okay, so his girlfriend at the time had been an A&R person in the music business, so her half of her job is to realize talent. And Jeff had been a stand-up comic, and she knew that I'd studied that. She said, "I really think you two should work, could be a partner." And we became friends, and it was like, man. Well, this woman is so incredibly successful now. The Property Brothers that are on HGTV, she built their empire, and that's what she's gone on to do. And I finally went to Jeff and I said, she might have been on to something. She's successful. So we tried this, and it's those wonderful things you stumble into. Yeah. And I wasn't looking for it. And I say that in a very long story short to you, and I'm sure this happens when you're searching. It's that thing you don't expect that plops right in your lap.
I hope so, because it's been a rough week or two. I mean, I even went to Facebook and made some sad post about, here's a selfie in front of a classroom. So my husband's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, I just don't know. I'm in a weird place. It's not. I'm not depressed. I'm just not satisfied, and I don't know what that is. And it's not with any one person or thing. And I'm trying to figure something out. I have got the store. Right, I've got this wonderful place that I go spend time to. Yep. But sometimes you feel like you're at the edge of everything that you could possibly do with it. Right. And maybe there's some other innovation in the store itself that I can think of that'll come to me that I can actually work on. But it's just kind of a weird spot, and it associates with being 50 now. Does it? And seeing where my parents are.
Okay. So 50 doesn't ever make me feel like, wow, I need to suddenly figure it out. There's a line out of Hamilton that you write like you're running out of time. And that's my creative things. I feel like I'm running out of time. I always feel, and that's why I'm pushing myself to do too many things. Now, when you flip ahead, when you talk about the comparison to your parents, my dad is now suffering from some dementia coming in, and that weighs on me that I'm like, holy shit, these things that I've trained my body and my mind to do, if I'm going to inherit that terrifies me. And I start thinking I've only got 30 years.
I mean, I didn't specifically want to single those aspects out of my parents, but I see, here's something that I think I talked about this on In Between a long time ago. they don't use the stove much at all anymore, and I realize it's because they can't pick up heavy pots and pans. They can't they'd be afraid of leaving their gas stove on, and they use the microwave for almost everything now. And that's
how old are they?
72, 73.
Okay.
That is one of the things that I don't look forward to. Like
Yeah.
the things that I think about, the fact that some of these things, I'm going to stay fit, right?
At some point, you will have reached peak fitness, and you won't be able at that point.
When
anymore.
when I have a conversation with one of them, and I see the process, whip smart, but I see the slowness that it
Yes.
takes to get to those moments. That there's always, the conversation has pauses in it now.
Yeah.
As processes work, and I don't know. I'm just kind of afraid of this kind of direction, and I'm like, what's my next desperate thing to do? And I don't mean desperate, but what do I want to create? I don't want to sit on the couch and watch news programs and TV and read 12 books. I want to continue to do something.
When you really think about it, all life is just marking time before you die. You're just trying to find the next thing to do for the next
an
10
incredibly
years.
cynical approach. You're right, but I get it. We always want that thing that gives life purpose. I can have purpose being with my friends and doing the podcast. And you're right. The funny thing is when I'm alone and I'm editing these episodes, I almost curse this podcast because I'm like, holy shit, I got to do more of that. But then when I'm with you guys, I look forward to it. I enjoy it. And that's the weirdness of life. I have that same love-hate occasionally with music because I recently bought a drum kit again and I've started playing in jazz band. Well, my body, I've had 2 surgeries. I've had a reconstructed shoulder and discectomy from drumming. It beats the shit out of your body. I've got arthritis in my hands. I'm at that point where my body can't keep up anymore.
Yeah.
Just because I've been torturing it for since I was 9 years old. For 45 years, I've done nothing but do this kind of thing. I'm even at that point with guitar where I look at it and I'm kind of like, I don't want to do it anymore. But at the same time, it's a compulsion, and I can't avoid it.
Reflecting on the conversation at the beginning of the week,
Yeah.
when that younger athlete said, "What happened out there?" It's that same kind of thing. It's like I'm pushing myself to levels that ordinary athletes or people my age just don't do.
Right.
And I can keep up with you. Give me a little bit of praise here, right? don't your expectation.
Keep up with you. I'm beating you.
Right. Exactly. I'm beating you. So I don't know how much longer I have for those kinds of things. Like I feel like that those will be taken away from me. In CrossFit, when you turn 55, which is in, for me 4 years, they changed the standards for a lot of the movements and the weights dramatically down. And so I don't know why, but in my mind I'm like, what happens in the next 4 years where I just fall off a fucking cliff? For in CrossFit. So for example, a 53-pound kettlebell, right? Big, heavy kettlebell. When you go to 55, it suddenly drops to 35. It drops not to 44, but to 35. There are toes to bar, where you hang from a bar and you bring your toes to the bar, the back. At 55, suddenly that jumps to sit-ups. Like
You're not falling apart.
I'm not falling apart. I can still do these things. But it's a weird. It's all. This is all in my head now. This is all in my head.
Well, that's at least the cool thing for me. There is no competition that says, by the way, now you can't do this anymore.
Right. Well, I can do something else. I don't have to do CrossFit. That I tell people to follow their whatever they enjoy fitness wise. Right. Whatever makes them worthwhile. But trying to be a coach in front of these athletes and 10 hours a week, it makes me also kind of more competitive and makes me kind of in that arena. And at some point I know that my body will just not let me do those things. That's hard.
It is hard. I mean, getting older is hard. And number one, Abby and I were just talking about last night after we went to the movies that I'm like, the crazy thing about being your father, being older, is that I still see 25-year-old Todd in here that wants to do all these kind of things and is ready to do these things, but life does, no matter what you do, come and tell you, whether that's the finality that, look, my parents are in their mid 80s, they're probably going to make it hopefully around 90, so I've got about 40 years left. Yeah. And I started thinking, shit, I'm already way past the midpoint, and it's kind of like, whoa. And I think that's where the midlife thing comes from. I would guess.
I think that as well. I think I think about the fact that, okay, I have friends right now that are suffering from cancers. I have some friends that have passed away. I have some friends that have, one that has really, really advanced MS. And I see this all in my peer group now. I remember, joking about grandparents